Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us for our annual security press event around our Super Bowl. So we are now 4 days, 4 hours, 32 minutes away from what we've all been working for. So we are very happy to have you here to help us with our message so that we can get through the next 4 days and have a great Super Bowl. So I'm Kathy Lanier. I am the Chief Security Officer for the National Football League. And as you can see, I'm joined by all of the public safety colleagues, or a sampling of the public safety colleagues that have been working with us over the past almost 2 years to bring this spectacular event together here in Minneapolis. The best part about working here in Minneapolis is this is one of the friendliest places on earth. Literally, Minnesotans have been so kind and so generous and so friendly to us since we've been here. It has been quite a pleasure to work here. As you know, though, there are some challenges with putting the Super Bowl on here in Minneapolis. The stadium, as you have realized, does sit in the heart of the city, so pretty tightly wedged in the center of the city, and building out a secure perimeter took a little creativity. Another challenge, as I'm sure that you have already figured out, is it gets a little chilly here. There is a heat wave today, but I assure you, in the days that I've been here, we've hit a few cold temperatures, which makes some challenges for us. This year, however, is the first year that we have remote satellite checkpoints, checkpoint screening operation that would offer door-to-door service from your entry, from the time you get screened into the stadium. Ticket holders now for this Super Bowl will have the option to park for free at the Mall of America, go through screening there, and take an express ride on the Blue Line train to the front door of the stadium, arriving already inside of the massive security perimeter that you see going around the city. This is by far, and I want to reiterate this is by far the easiest and the warmest way to get into the stadium on game day. Round-trip tickets are still available. There is a website, metrotransit.org. So for those of you still planning your way in, I would recommend that safe, smooth transportation into our secure perimeter. The trains on game day will be departing from the Mall of America at 12:30, 1:30, 2:30, and 3:30. For those fans that are planning to come and are watching today, please, 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 please do not come late. Come early. We have, the gates are open at 1. There's a lot of fantastic things that you can do and see once you get inside of the stadium. Once you are inside of the stadium, it is a warm, toasty 70-ish degrees. So if you wait until 4 o'clock to try and come in and get into the stadium, you will likely have to do some waiting to get through security. Everyone also should expect to spend some time out in the elements. This is very important for us to make sure that people who are coming here and visiting for the Super Bowl to please dress appropriately. Even if you're only out for a few minutes, it can get quite cold here. You need to dress in layers, hats, gloves, scarves covering your extremities, comfortable shoes or boots. I will say, please, for security purposes, do not come with battery-operated heated clothing. You will not be able to get through security with that. So no battery-operated heated socks, jackets, and clothing. Once you're inside the stadium, again, it's climate controlled. If you come early, you get inside the stadium. Anytime after the gates open at 1, there is going to be a lot of fan activity that you can do, great food, and some entertainment that you can watch up on the big screens. In terms of security, the primary law enforcement responsibility here in Minneapolis rests with the local, county, and state authorities. But we do have a tremendous amount of support from our federal government, as we have in past years' Super Bowls, and they provide a tremendous amount of assets to get us through and have gotten us to this point in the last couple of years. In demonstrating that support, we are honored here today to have Secretary Kirsten Nielsen here. We have taken a few tours today. She's been around quite a bit around in Minnesota, but it's my honor to introduce her and let her make a few remarks about her trip here to Minneapolis. Thank you.
Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to be here. I'm very excited for all the fans to see the stadium. It's beautiful. If you haven't seen it before, you're going to have a great day. Really enjoy all the facilities there, and it'll also be safe and secure, which is what we're here to talk about today. So from boarding an airplane to walking into the stadium, cheering fans can be sure that DHS and our federal partners are here to support our state and local officials in securing the site. And DHS works very closely in these instances and types of events. Obviously, due to its size, its scope, it is and can be an attractive target. We don't have any credible or specific threat intel, but we will continue to actively monitor channels with our international partners and be in close and constant contact with all of the folks you see behind me. From a federal perspective, we have about 1,700 or so federal officials that we've brought to bear to support our state and local partners. About 700 of those are from DHS. We have done everything from help prepare on the front end. We'll be here during the event, and then certainly in the unlikely event that something occurs, we'll be here to support the state and locals who are here on the ground. I want to thank Kathy, and thanks for her invaluable service both in D.C. We miss her as our chief, but also all that she does for the NFL and to secure these games so that we all have a good time. I also wanted to thank the Minneapolis Police Department, the entire Twin Cities area public safety team, the FBI, many, many others, as you see behind me. So over the past 18 months, DHS has really been involved actually for pretty much 2 years. But over the past 18 months, we've conducted over 200 different security assessments of the critical infrastructure in the surrounding area. We've provided counsel and recommendations on protective measures resulting from those assessments. And we've hosted about 52 trainings in the area on topics ranging from active shooter through to cyber, bombing, any sort of hazard or event that could occur. These trainings are very powerful. They help mitigate risk. They also help bring us all together. You know, there's the old expression, you don't want to be exchanging business cards during an event. These trainings and opportunities allow us all to get to know each other as we prepare and work together for big events like this. And we also have this active role in executing during and after the event. So you'll see TSA. We will be trying to help bolster what you see at the airport. On an average day, the airport here screens about 30,000 people. We're expecting about 69,000 in one day. So you'll see TSA bolstering the lanes to try to make sure and facilitate the traffic of the passengers who are coming here to watch the game. FEMA's been involved with tabletop exercises, which is another part of what we do. So we've had exercises and everything from all of the hazards that we talked about, but just on incident command, information sharing, notification. And in addition to that, DHS is also guarding our economic security. So you will see agents out looking for counterfeit tickets, counterfeit merchandise, and making sure that our economic interests are secure as well. Last year alone, these efforts resulted in a seizure of over 260,000 counterfeit sport-related items worth an estimated $20 million. So this is also a real threat that we face on days such as Super Bowl. For soft targets, we talk a lot about soft targets at DHS. The Super Bowl is actually a great example of how we prepare for that. Year-round, we work with state and locals, with private sector owners and operators to make sure that those vulnerability assessments are conducted and that everybody is aware of how a venue can support evacuation if and when needed and how people can be notified. So generally, I just wanted to take the opportunity before I turn it over to those who will give you more detail to thank everybody and to ask the fans to play an active role. You'll see signs when you're in the stadium that if you see something, please do say something. Call 911. There's also a text number that you'll see on the screens during the event. It's just really important. You're there. You'll notice if you do see something suspicious, and if you do, we ask that you let us know, and then we'll track it down and make sure that it's nothing to cause any alarm. And other than that, to the fans, have a wonderful game. I myself hope to see Kathy and others next year when the Tampa Bay Bucks will get through the playoffs, and we'll hopefully be at the Super Bowl next year. And other than that, I'll turn it over to my colleagues here to give you some more details. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Secretary. I'll pass that along to the Bucks for you. So again, this is the culmination of a lot of work, a lot of hard work, and a lot of dedication by a lot of different groups. And I know I speak for the Commissioner in thanking all the local law enforcement and public safety partners who have been just tremendous with us over the past 2 years, none more so than the Minneapolis Police Department. They have really, I would swear, after coming from Houston with a police department that's 4 times as large, that this police department is every bit as large with the amount of planning experience and resources they have dedicated to making sure the community is integrated into the Super Bowl activities and Super Bowl events, and that we have a great event. So thank you so much, Chief, for your efforts here. So before we go through and speak with all of our local law enforcement partners, I want to recognize that as a part of our security apparatus for Super Bowl, this has been designated by the Department of Homeland Security as a special security event. So as this Tier 1 event. As this Tier 1 event, there is the designation of not just the resources, federal resources that you heard the Secretary talk about, but also the designation of a federal official to lead our efforts. That federal official for us this year is Alex Koo. So I'd like to bring up Alex Koo from the Department of Homeland Security, who is our federal coordinator to support us during the Super Bowl. Alex.
Thank you, Kathy. Good afternoon. I am Alex Koo, Special Agent in charge for Homeland Security Investigations in Minnesota. I am also this year's federal coordinator. The federal coordination team is honored to have worked closely with the local law enforcement community for the better part of 2 years. I want to recognize and thank Chief Arredondo and Commander Scott Gerlicher of the Minneapolis Police Department, as well as FBI Special Agent in charge Rick Thornton. They have been exceptional partners from the very onset of planning. I extend my sincere gratitude and respect to Secretary Nielsen, as over 27 Department of Homeland Security agencies and components have deployed for this year's Super Bowl, along with numerous other federal agencies. The unity of effort by the interagency partnerships has been outstanding, bringing forth critical assets and capabilities to the Twin Cities area. Some of our key efforts include advanced cargo and vehicle screening technologies, explosives detection assets, special response teams to rapidly deploy to major public safety incidents, air assets to secure and protect the skyways, the fans, and the venue on game day, mobile command centers to support state and local incident commanders, the deployment of numerous high-resolution cameras at critical intersections and junctions throughout Minneapolis with complete video downlink capabilities, direct engagement with the intelligence community, and to rapidly receive and disseminate threat information to all of our incident commanders, human trafficking and counterfeit merchandise teams, consequence management assets, and the department is also dedicating resources in support of Minneapolis Police Department to ensure the departure of fans post-game is safe. I want to welcome everyone to the Bold North in this beautiful state of Minnesota, as well as the numerous special events that you can enjoy throughout the week. You serve a crucial public safety role. If you see something suspicious, please contact the authorities or report it to a uniformed police officer nearby. Thank you.
You know, even as we have the perimeter of the well now locked down and we are getting closer to game day, it just I enjoy when I go out and I see the officers from the Minneapolis PD working with us, taking selfies with people who are arriving in the city and coming here to enjoy the game. So that's great leadership, and great leadership starts with the chief. So I will turn it over now to you, Chief, so you can talk about your efforts here in Minneapolis.
Good afternoon, everyone. Chief Madera Arredondo of the Minneapolis Police Department. I want to first start by thanking Madam Secretary. Thank you for being here, and thank you for the incredible amount of assets and safety assets and capabilities that you've brought for us to have a very safe and welcoming event here in our city. So thank you very much. I also want to thank Chief Lanier from the NFL also for your support, leadership, and helping us, again, to have a very safe and welcoming Super Bowl 52 here in the city of Minneapolis. As was mentioned, Super Bowls in previous cities have had really the support and luxury of having large personnel to accomplish these. Minneapolis, we're very unique in the sense that we really do require and rely upon teamwork in terms of our Minnesota law enforcement. The men and women standing behind me are part and parcel of that. There is no way, and I want to stress, there's no way that we could even attempt to do this without the great partnership of Minnesota law enforcement. That means our local, state, our county, and our federal partners. They've been absolutely tremendous in making sure that we have a very safe and welcoming Super Bowl. We have had over 60 law enforcement agencies around the state that will be that have been activated and participating in this, and certainly, as Madam Secretary would tell you, Super Bowl has changed a lot since we last hosted this in 1992. Since then, our world has changed, and we really need to make sure that as a symbol of our freedom for Americans to get together and enjoy their pastimes, we have to make sure and ensure that their safety is first and foremost. And so these are some of the assets that we are bringing here to the city. I do know that there are probably some in our community that are not used to seeing such a robust public safety presence, but I will stress again that it is for their safety, and we are doing everything that we can to make sure that Super Bowl 52 here in Minneapolis is a very safe, again, and welcoming environment. So again, I want to thank Madam Secretary, again for you, Chief Lanier, thank you. And again, the men and women standing behind me that support our efforts. So thank you all very much.
Chief Arredondo, thank you very much. You know, the number of federal agencies that have been engaged in this effort has been quite extensive. Pleasure for me to planning these events that it's kind of like old home week from all my federal partners from Washington, D.C. And I don't want to leave out the important role that the FBI has played to help us here with our planning and through game day and making sure that we are all safe. So at this point, I'd like to bring up Richard Thornton, who is the special agent in charge from FBI's Minneapolis field office.
Good afternoon. As Kathy said, my name is Rick Thornton. I'm the special agent in charge of the FBI for Minnesota. So one bad thing about going last is everybody gets to steal all my talking points. So I'm going to go a little different direction here. But just as the New England Patriots and the Philadelphia Eagles have put together a game plan to prepare for every possible situation they could face on Super Bowl Sunday, law enforcement has done the same thing. The entire law enforcement team, all the people you see up here on the dais, have worked together to anticipate every possible situation we may be asked to deal with, and we developed a plan to do so. Philadelphia and New England coaches, they've done the X's and O's, developed their game plan, and it will soon be the players' job to execute that plan. In law enforcement, it's the same thing. We've planned, we've trained, it's game time for us, and we are ready to do what we need to do and to take care of anything that comes our way. We are all eagerly anticipating this Sunday and our chance to do our part to make this a safe, secure, and enjoyable event for everybody. For the law enforcement professionals, the Super Bowl is about planning, preparation, and partnerships. As has been said, everything that we've done has been a collaborative effort among dozens of local, state, county, and federal law enforcement and public safety agencies. The FBI, for our part, we are proud to be, to be a part of this and to play an important public safety role each year in securing the Super Bowl. As part of the overall public safety effort, we contribute significant personnel and technical resources. And one of the things we do that's unique is we operate the Intelligence Operations Center, which is sort of the nerve center for all Super Bowl related intelligence and threat information. The center collects and analyzes threat and intelligence from all over the world. We get it from foreign and domestic law enforcement and intelligence partners. We get it from the public that calls 911, that text a message, that calls 1-800-CALL-FBI, our call center. No matter how the threat information comes in, we have the ability to process it and analyze it and then get it out for action to the people that need to action it. One of the things that makes the FBI unique is, among law enforcement agencies, is the fact that we support these sorts of major events in the United States and across the world on an ongoing basis, whether it's the Olympics, whether it's presidential inauguration, World Cup, or of course the event we're here to talk about today, the Super Bowl. We support these events, as does our partners at DHS, on an ongoing basis. The FBI's Critical Incident Response Group is part of the FBI, which has the responsibility to coordinate the deployment of all these specialty assets. You heard my good friend Alex mention some of the things that DHS brings to the table. The FBI brings many of those same capabilities to complement the overall effort. We bring those to the event, whether it's tactical teams, whether it's aviation assets, crisis management, counter-explosive exports, you name it. We bring those capabilities, to the event here. One of the other things we do as the nation's preeminent law enforcement agency is we bring a variety of investigative capabilities, whether it's our Joint Terrorism Task Force participating in the Human Trafficking Task Force, and our whole host of criminal, national security, and cyber investigative capabilities. I want to thank Chief Arredondo and Commander Gerlicher for their leadership, for the entire Minneapolis Police Department, all the partners behind me, certainly SAC Coup for taking on the thankless job as the federal coordinator, and it is a thankless job. Thank you, buddy. You've done a great job with it. I want to thank all the law enforcement partners, everybody that has, as the chief said, and Kathy and the secretary. This is a team effort. So again, thanks to everybody. And finally, I want to thank Kathy and the NFL for allowing the hundreds of FBI employees that participate in supporting this event the opportunity to take part in this truly marquee event. Thank you very much.
Since you mentioned the truly thankless job and the really, really hard work, there's probably, next to Alex, nobody who has done more hard work on the ground and dealt with more complex issues here around the planning of the Super Bowl than Scott Gerlicher. He is not only a daily text buddy of mine, he sends me text messages letting me know what the wind chill factor is whenever I am not in Minneapolis. I have gotten a couple that were pretty scary, Scott, but Scott Gerlicher has been the lead planner on behalf of the Minneapolis Police. So I'd like to let Scott come up and make a few comments about their planning and security from the Minneapolis Police. Scott.
Yeah, thank you very much. Kathy brought her big, heavy winter jacket and some heavy winter boots, and sounds like this weekend we may need it. It's going to get colder. Yeah, thank you. This is really a culmination, as was said, of 2 years of planning, not just by myself, but by hundreds of people across really the metro area, covering all aspects of public safety, police, fire, emergency management, medical. And as has been said, we are ready. We have although there's a number of different agencies involved locally and 60 different law enforcement agencies from around the state, we truly are a unified command, a unified structure. We're all speaking the same language. We have been working together, training together, and we are absolutely ready for anything that may come our way. We hope it's just cold weather, and that's it. We have also taken a lot of time to reach out to our community folks here in the past weeks. To include our MPD officers have reached out and been training and have trained over 10,000 Super Bowl volunteers, over 5,000 safe management security volunteers, as well as countless numbers of private security throughout the metro area and other community groups on what Secretary Nielsen talked about, see something, say something, what specifically to look for and how specifically to report that. Because truly, they are the eyes and ears out there, and we would highly encourage folks, anything this week that they might see that they're just unsure about, approach a police officer, approach a member of the Minnesota National Guard. They have been trained, they know what to do. You won't have any problem finding any of them. There will be a strong and is a strong law enforcement presence out there. That is by design. But having said that, we have been training these folks, these National Guard, these Minnesota law enforcement officers. They are friendly and engaging. They've been taking pictures with folks out there. They can remain vigilant, but also be very engaging. So that's really the goal of this operation. We want folks to leave the Twin Cities thinking two things. Number one, this was the best Super Bowl that I've ever attended. Number two, it was the most coordinated and most professional law enforcement presence we've ever had. If we can accomplish those two things, I think from a public safety perspective, we've been successful. So a big thank you to all the partners behind us and the hundreds more out there, and especially to our coordination team. They've been great to work with. We are a relatively small organization, and so having people like Alex Koo to reach out to and say, Alex, we need 50 people for this, or we need this type of equipment. Every single one of those requests has been met and exceeded to our expectations, so I couldn't be more proud of our federal coordination team and the support that we've had with the federal government. Really, no entity out there, no government, no community could pull a Super Bowl off, an event of this magnitude, without federal support. So having Secretary Nielsen here, I think, is an important step to have, and I think we're extremely grateful here in our community to have that federal support. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Scott. In respect to the Secretary's time, I'll just quickly close. The most important thing for you to remember for us to get into the Super Bowl, enjoy our game day, and have a great event is just plan your trip. We do have a website that can put up for you that you can go to, and you can look at what prohibited items are, what the screening process is, where you can go. Please come early. Please dress appropriately. The weather's probably going to be a little bit cold. You will spend a little bit of time outside. If you go to our remote screening sites, Mall of America, get that ticket, take that train ride in. It's the quickest, warmest, easiest way in to the perimeter. But come early, please. We don't want everybody showing up at 4 o'clock. But those are the most important things for us. We have your safety and the safety of everybody else well in hand. So with that, I will be happy to help direct questions to any of the persons on the panel.
Edgar Linares with WCCO Radio. My question is, after the tragedy in Las Vegas, how did your security plan change? You've been planning it for 2 years. Did that change in any way after what happened in Las Vegas?
So I think I'll speak from my perspective. I'll turn it over to the Minneapolis police as largely part of what they do every day. But those of us that are in the safety world, law enforcement, private safety, all operate on the same principles. We watch each and every event that happens worldwide, and we adjust our plans accordingly. I'm extremely comfortable with the plans that are put in place in a combination of the Minneapolis PD and our federal partners here. But yes, we do take into account every incident that happens, and we do make changes to our plan. Those specific changes we are not going to talk about here, but rest assured that those adjustments were made. So I don't know if any of the law enforcement partners want to.
Yeah, I would just echo what Chief Lanier said. Certainly from a public safety standpoint, law enforcement, I think I can speak for all of my partners behind me. We continue to look at when incidents such as Las Vegas happen, we certainly look at our practices and our protocols, and we try to adjust to that. So we certainly will continue to learn from that, and we certainly have factored that and others into our planning. So,
Thank you.
Right here, Steve Futterman with CBS News. Wanted to ask Secretary Nielsen, Kathy, this whole idea of how safe people are in this area. Is there any way that you can guarantee no problems, security problems, terrorist issues at the Super Bowl? What can you guarantee people who are going to be coming to the game? And then a secondary question for whoever wants to answer, can you talk about whether there's going to be a no-fly zone and also biological weapon detection devices in the general area?
You can start, I'll finish. Yep.
Is it, okay, make sure it's on. What I would say is that as of today, there is no specific credible threat. We'll continue to monitor. There are no guarantees in life. We can guarantee folks that come, though, will have a great day, a good time. It'll be a good game. And certainly what you've seen here today is all that we're doing to make sure that that happens.
In terms of the assets, Alex talked about quite a bit. And we obviously are not going to talk about specific elements of security that we put in place, but I will assure you that with all the resources that we have here, we are extremely prepared for detection of any threat that would be a potential for us here. And yes, we do have flight restrictions around the stadium for the Super Bowl. So we've every security measure that we normally have on game day we have, and then we've enhanced those security measures on top of that. So, yes.
Hi, Chris Harabsky from CARE TV here in Minneapolis. Question's probably for you, Kathy. In light of the Tom Brady game jersey heist last year, what, if any, credentialing and security measures have been put in place to prevent something like that from happening again?
Yeah, that's a great question. As you know, that was actually a credentialed member of the press. But to be serious, you know, we look at everything and determine how we can make things better. So we have worked extensively since last year's Super Bowl, not only with the clubs, so now with the 2 clubs that are here, but also with our stadium and with technology. So there has been credentialing changes. So background checks implemented across the board. Everybody gets a particular level of check. The credentialings has changed. The system itself has changed. Who gets access, where, and how they get access has changed. So specifically what door you go in and what time you have access to go in that door. We have also implemented an RFID system for tapping in, going into the locker rooms. So the way we like to look at this is we are doing every possible thing with cameras and technology to keep things secure all the way up to that locker room door. And then we rely on our partners from our clubs, that would be the Patriots and Eagles that are here, to make sure everything that goes on inside that locker room, that they keep safe. So it has been an extensive review and an extensive changes that we make. But as you know, even credentialed people in a really tight security operation, there can be incidents that happen. We're hoping that that does not happen this year.
And good afternoon. Paul Bloom. I'm a reporter with the local Fox television affiliate,
Hi, Paul.
KMSP TV. Thank you for joining us today. A couple quick questions. I know reluctant to speak specifically about security measures. I am going to ask our newsroom. Was just curious. You mentioned high definition cameras. Are we talking facial recognition technology that is being implemented this year out on the streets? And then secondarily, probably for Chief Rondo here, about you know, the issues we've had locally with terror recruitment, extremism overseas. How are we plugging in to those networks, those channels, to make sure this does remain a safe community, including Bloomington, St. Paul, other venues over these next 4 or 5 days?
So I'm not going to talk about anything on the public streets. That is the chief's lane. I'll leave that to the chief. But I will say that we have extensive network of cameras in and around our sites to make sure that we keep people safe. And we are going to use those cameras to do just that and make sure that people do remain safe here. In respect to what's happening outside of our perimeter, I'll leave that to the chief to answer.
Yeah, so to your question, some of the things that we've experienced specifically to Minneapolis as it relates to recruitment, certainly we continue to have a great relationship with our federal partners. The communication is ongoing. It's still there. While I can't discuss certain details, but I can tell you that the communication is very key. It's important. Timely intelligence, whether that's communications with Sheriff Stanek of Hennepin County or Chief Jeff Potts and even Chief Axtell over in St. Paul, we continue to make sure that we're getting out and sharing communication as timely, as important as we can. Again, we don't like to focus on a particular community at large. That's not what we want to do. That's not what the intent is. But anything in terms of specific as relates to recruitment of terrorism, we certainly rely upon our federal agent here. And I don't know if you want to mention anything or not.
No, I think as the chief said, there's great communication, but again, we are, through the Intelligence Operations Center and FBI operations worldwide, in conjunction with our intelligence community partners and DHS, we are looking at all of those potential threat streams, and we're communicating it to the partners for action.
Great. Yes.
Brian Danoff, WBN TV in Boston. Kind of a question for the dais as a whole, but anyone who can answer. The Minnesota Vikings and their fans were here 2 weeks ago in the NFC Championship game. Can you talk about what their fans and just Minnesota residents can expect showing up here as regards to 2 weeks ago, and what exactly, how will the experience getting into the stadium be different, and how much longer will that process take?
So our hope is that it won't be longer. We'd like to think that we have a very good security perimeter, but also one that's welcoming to get our fans in here. And as I said in the opening of my comments, the fans in Minnesota are just the nicest people to deal with. Very polite, very friendly. I stood and watched fans enter in a variety of different ways, and it was snowing pretty good last time I was here, and pretty cold, Scott. So they will have to go through the standard security that they normally would go through. We're trying to encourage people to do the remote screening because they can go to the Mall of America and get that screening done at the mall and get on that train and come right into the perimeter, which would be the quickest, easiest way to get in. As you know, there's not a lot of parking down and around this area. There's a lot of street closures. So again, I say whether you're a hometown Minnesotan or you're a visitor, go on our website and look at what prohibited items are, where the different options are for getting in, and then just come early. The earlier you come, the quicker it is going to be to get in. But we don't anticipate anybody waiting in any long lines to get in.
Rochelle Olson from the Star Tribune. This might be for Chief Arredondo. Have you made any adjustments to the crowd control on Nicollet Mall? We've seen some complaints in social media and in the paper. Have you had that it's overly crowded? So I'm wondering if you've done anything there. Also wondering what sort of counterfeiting trafficking you've seen, or if you have any advice for people on how to avoid.
So, Rochelle, to your first question, I'll turn the second one over to my federal partners. Yeah, the nice thing about Super Bowl 52 being a 10-day event, it gives all of our team members a chance to kind of look at and tweak what's working, what we need to adjust. Certainly we look at street configurations. We also know on Nicollet Mall, sidewalk space is important. We know that we just went through a major remodeling on Nicollet Mall, so some of that is impacted by some of the structures out there on the sidewalk. We've got events that are actually taking place there, so we're looking at that. We're trying to make sure that we do daily, twice a day briefings all the time. So we're trying to make sure that we have good traffic and pedestrian flow, and we'll continue to make sure that we do that. We also, when those complaints come in, we try to see what we can do to resolve them in a timely manner.
So the FBI is participating in the anti-counterfeiting effort, but Homeland Security Investigations actually has the lead federally on that, so I'll punt this to Alex.
Thanks, Rick. So we are working in a multi-agency team with Minneapolis PD, Homeland Security Investigations, FBI, as well as Customs and Border Protection. And the way we're approaching this is multifaceted. Number one, we are looking at inbound port interdictions. So obviously CBP would be very, very involved in that process. We're also looking at malls, street vendors, et cetera. So essentially not leaving any stone unturned, we're looking at everything. And so far we have made a number of seizures already. And we are also, as we get closer to game day, we're looking at counterfeit tickets as well.
AJ Perez, USA Today. I know it's kind of, I was going to ask about the VIPs, possibility of vice president, president coming in. Any indication whether whether that could be involved at game day?
Everybody coming to Super Bowl is a VIP in our opinion. Every single person, and they will feel that way when they get here. No, I don't have any indication of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I've got the same
phonetically.
app that you have.